So, what's up with taking all the jewelry and stuff? We're going to talk about that and other things on Wake Up to the Bible. I'm Daniel Kaplan. I'm here with my father, Dr. Kaplan. We're going through the books of the law, Genesis through Deuteronomy, over the course of this year. Today we're reading Exodus 10:24 through 11:3. I'm reading from the Robert Alter translation, and then we will discuss what we read afterwards. And Pharaoh called to Moses and said, "Go, worship the Lord. Only your sheep and your cattle will be set aside. Your little ones too may go with you." And Moses said, "You yourself too shall provide us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may do them to the Lord our God. And our livestock too shall go with us. Not a hoof should remain. For from it we shall take to worship the Lord our God. And we ourselves cannot know what we shall worship the Lord our God until we come there." And the Lord toughened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not want to send them off. And Pharaoh said to him, "Go away from me, watch yourself, do not again see my face, for on the day you see my face, you shall die." And Moses said, "Rightly have you spoken, I will not see your face again." And the Lord said to Moses, "Yet one more plague shall I bring upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterward he will send you off from here. When he sends you off altogether, he will surely drive you out from here. Speak, pray, in the hearing of the people, that every man borrow from his fellow man, and every woman from her fellow woman, ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold. And the Lord will grant the people favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. The man Moses too was very great in the land of Egypt in the eyes of Pharaoh's servants, and the eyes of Pharaoh's people, of the people." All right, so we have this final confrontation between Moses and Pharaoh here, and now we have another bargain, and this time it's do not let your livestock go, which of course defeats the whole purpose, because the whole purpose was to go and do a religious ceremony, and to do the religious ceremony they needed to have animals. So again, you don't really ever have him offer anything that is correct, right? He's always giving a half-baked sort of deal that does not fulfill the initial request.
Well, Moses says, "You must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings." So he's even going, not only should we take ours, but you should also provide.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, he's like, not only are we going to take our livestock, but we owe some from you. Which, again, they weren't all killed before. Don't keep that in mind.
So it's partly, reparations for all the work they've been doing without compensation.
Right, and I think that's kind of getting at what we get later on with the jewelry and stuff like that. Although it's interesting, because this is where it's hard to wrestle with the text a little bit, in my opinion. And because when you think about what's about to happen, right, and you have them going and they're getting ornaments of silver and ornaments of gold, and it says the people thought highly of Moses and all of that, and then what's going to happen next is the slaying of the firstborn. So it is hard to wrestle with that in a sense, because they're being held, even though at this point it seems like they're at least somewhat respectful of what's going on, and they're giving them stuff, and they're respecting Moses, they're going to get this very severe punishment. So it is something to wrestle with.
It seems that they're giving them this compensation, but then they're figuring, hopefully now they'll stay here and continue to serve us.
Maybe. Yeah.
So they figure, okay, we've given them, we've paid them something now. Now they need to.
We've made up for the bad business relationship up to now.
Stay here.
Yeah.
I also want to wonder why he says borrow, because here it says ask, and
why Alter says borrow?
Why he says borrow?
He doesn't have a comment on that.
That's a strange.
Yeah, because borrow is a little bit weird, because there really isn't any assumption that they're going to give it back. So that is an interesting translation choice.
Anyway, I'll see if that was the Exodus 11.
Yeah, Exodus 11:2.
Pretty sure the term is ask in the Hebrew.
But
I'll check it out as well.
Yeah.
But,
it is interesting.
Okay, so what's the verse here?
11:2.
Yeah, so it's sha'al, which is to ask. So why he says borrow, but he doesn't comment. All right, so we have to figure out what he means by it.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right. Now, when Pharaoh says, "Don't see my face again, because on the day you see my face, you shall die," doesn't he end up seeing Pharaoh again?
Evidently not. Evidently, he sends for them, but maybe it's all handled through intermediaries. You know,
Yeah, because Moses says, "Rightly have you spoken; I will not see your face
it
again."
does
There's
say
like a
that he
prophecy.
sent for them,
Yeah,
but
because I know some people point that out as like a Bible contradiction, and so I was just curious.
well, I think that when he sent for them, it's a matter that it was handled through intermediaries, and this is some other way to explain that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You want to get back to the text here. All right.
Yeah. So anyway, but
I want to say one thing too.
yes,
It seems that a lot of the so-called spoiling of the Egyptians takes place before they actually are leaving.
right,
Now, it could be that on the way out, there also was more that went on.
right.
But it seemed that at least a portion of it, maybe a very significant portion of it, happened before they ever left. So this helps us to get the chronology put together.
Right.
But it is interesting that even after doing this, they had that final plague. But so it would seem to me that would indicate that even though they gave them all this money and respected Moses, but he was respected as the leader of those who would still be their slaves
Mm-hmm.
when all the compensation had been paid.
Yeah.
These people would remain in bondage.
Yeah.
So it would seem.
Sean says the KJV says borrow as well, so it's not an altar thing. Apparently, it comes from somewhere else.
Okay, so maybe I don't. But I'm trying. Okay, then I have to understand why they're saying it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wind up leaving with it. Okay, I'll have to look into that. Why that's done that way?
All right, but at least it doesn't put him out on a limb. There are other people that say the same thing. But yeah, it's an interesting. It's just because it's almost reminds me a little bit of Purim in a sense, or the Esther story where it's like, well, now they have favor, but when you get to that point, it doesn't go completely south. But in this, it's like it seems like they have. The people are in favor, and the Moses was great, and yet they're about to have this horrific thing happen to them. So it is just interesting to me. It's something that I kind of wrestle with. I mean, it's something that's challenging for a lot of people. Is was to have the plague of the firstborn is just such a brutal punishment on a group of people that it is something to wrestle with, and it's something to keep in mind too. I know that a lot of us like to have our joyful celebrations, and of course it's a joyful time, but I do think that the tradition the Jews have of having a moment where they do acknowledge the punishments and the horrific things that happened to the Egyptians and the suffering. I think that is important. I think that is part of the story, and regardless of how wicked they are, it still was horrific what happened to them. So
it's possible this is out of chronology, that it's something that they did after the.
Oh,
it's a possibility.
I see. Yeah, it could be after. That's possible.
Could be out of chronology here.
Yeah, although it says one more plague shall I bring. That's the beginning of it.
Yeah,
so
right,
I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, that's not a good. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's weak.
Don't know if I buy that, Dad. I'm sorry. Anyway, any other comments about this before we get to the dramatic conclusion of the story?
No, let's plunge forward.
All right, plunge forward. If you haven't yet, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we will see you tomorrow.